Rob, just read a book, John Scalzi. You know him, of course.
Oh yeah. I love John Scalzi. He's awesome.
Kaiju Protection Society, KPS. Have you read it?
Okay, I'm so in. I was unaware of this book, but I'm totally in.
I think it's come out maybe just like in the last year or so.
He writes fast. I mean, he writes fast. He puts out a lot of stuff. And everything he writes, I love his writing style because he's such an easy read. You know, everything is like really snappy, really well done. It could be like a movie script or something. He's great. He just pops it out there, and it's always an interesting concept.
Well, in this one, they're protecting kaijus.
Which is just excellent. I love that idea. If he's there, I'm in. I mean,
I was hooked by the title.
Yeah. I really liked the one where his main character is a guy who's paralyzed with locked-in syndrome, and he runs a remote person outside of himself. So he's like a robot, but he's like mentally linked to his own crippled body in his bed. And he's like the first guy wearing a remote to become a detective on the San Francisco police.
That sounds really freaking cool. I haven't heard of that.
Pretty awesome.
I find him to be somewhat hit or miss. I love some of his books, and other books I stopped reading 100 pages in because it just bores the shit out of me. So he's not my favorite author by any means, but I do, when he comes out with a book, I definitely read the back cover and see what's going on because I might love it. An issue I had in his book, when a sci-fi writer is writing a sci-fi book, they're talking about things, if it's a good sci-fi book, that are way over my head. Therefore, I have to trust the author on these things when he's talking about, you know, like nuclear fission or advanced concepts with like quantum science, things like that.
Your primitive intellect wouldn't understand alloys and compositions and things with molecular structures in the...
You give the author a little bit of trust. Oh, I believe he's not just making shit out of his ass. He's actually smart and talking about things in a smart way, right? You have to like endow them with a little bit of your trust. So I'm reading his book, and some dude has a Glock, and he puts the Glock on safety. He does that 3 or 4 times, and I'm shouting. I'm like, Glocks don't have fucking safeties. And it's so easy to get a gun expert. It's so much easier than to get a quantum physicist. He could have had any one of his beta fucking readers tell him that, and yet he doesn't. And that starts a cascade in my head where I just start get suspicious of every single thing he tells me in this book. I'm like, he's just making it up. There's no science behind this man's writing. So John Scalzi, I know you're not listening, but if you are, you should contact me. You should let me be a beta reader.
He might be listening. He does internet stuff. Hi, John. I love your stuff. Screw the Glock thing. We can forget about that.
You need better beta readers. I mentioned this on a bro chat before, and it was a series of books, and I put it in a video. It was by an author named Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Yes.
All right. I was running out of books to read, so I went to my usual places where I get books, and I got a bunch of his sci-fi, mostly sci-fi, as well as a few fantasy books. And most of his sci-fi isn't a big multi-book series. It's just like one-shot novels. But holy shit. I mean, his fantasy was good, but his sci-fi is good too.
Really?
Here's one that I read. It started out with a kind of a medieval setting and a princess who's like the 4th daughter going with her servant up to this lonely castle where a wizard lives, and apparently the wizard hasn't been seen for like a century, but there was a promise that was made that the wizard in times of trouble will come to save them. She goes up to the tower door, knocks on it, and then chapter 2 begins. Chapter 2 begins with like, what's that fucking knocking? It woke me up from my cryo sleep. It's a anthropologist from Earth.
That's pretty cool.
So he's an anthropologist from Earth with him and like 3 other people came to the planet to see how the colonies, who have all lost touch with Earth due to various like societal issues, want to see how they were doing, how the colonies were developing. So they set up, and his 3 compatriots had to go back to Earth for whatever reason, but he was left there, and he goes into these periods of cryo sleep, and he checks in every couple of centuries. And like the last time he was awake was like the great grandmother of this princess. And, you know, of course they call him this wizard, this magical mage. And so they wake him up and they go on a quest, and every chapter is her view and then his view and then her view and his view. So in his view, you know, he's like all heroic and shit, and he's doing all this stuff. And her view, he's kind of like, you know, why is he dressed so awkwardly? It doesn't match what's going on. And just the whole thing is that split view, and it's fucking awesome. It was so damn good.
That sounds excellent.
The way that whole split view went, it worked out really well, just because all these different events happening, and like they don't speak English.
Yeah.
Maybe some, you know, derivation spun off over centuries of English, but it's a completely different language, basically. So every time he's like, there is no magic. I'm not a wizard. I'm a scientist. And there's no word for scientist. So basically, when you hear it from her point of view, it's like, there is no magic. I'm not a wizard. I'm a sorcerer. I'm not a sorcerer. I'm a mage. That's him like explaining it to her. And it just sounds like the most confusing, muddled shit. And she's like, okay, whatever, dude. Another book that he wrote, time travel, a lot of time machines. Eventually, both sides of a ideological conflict get them. And when you got one on each side, then there's like 10 on each side, then there's 20 on each side. So they start having what's called the causality war, where everybody's going back in time and changing this and changing that. And so while he was this time soldier, and this isn't happening in the book, this is all just backstory.
Perhaps a time cop?
Have a nice day.
But
Ooh.
he'll get orders from, like the Joint Chiefs of whatever nation he represents. And then like 3 days later, a whole completely different looking, different uniform people will contact him and give him countermanding orders. And like everything just changes again and again and again and again. So he figures the only way to like save anything is just to kill all the time travelers. So he does that. He's going through some issues. He took some extreme steps, but then shit happens and he meets another time traveler in the story and they start trying to kill each other. And they eventually get to this one scene where he's like, okay, my drones didn't work. My attack hyenodons didn't work. This didn't work. That didn't work. So he goes back in time and he gets Hitler and Stalin and Jack the Ripper and Genghis Khan. And he gets in like ninjas and stuff. And he's going to like,
All the guys who made Serpentor, yes.
and he's going to have them like attack her. And it's so stupid because why would you get Hitler to like attack somebody? That's like, he can't fight.
He could be in charge of rallying the troops.
Yes, he's got like 20 badasses from history. And every move he's made, this other time traveler has counteracted or, been able to defend against. And so he shows up and like sicks them on her. And she has her own army where she has like also Stalin and 2 Hitlers. And, so she has all these other time people. And so this is kind of where they actually become friends, where they're both kind of watching it like a Blood Bowl football game where they're all just killing each other on the field. And everybody's just, and he's always had at his base a pet Allosaurus. And at the end, like one of the Hitlers has survived. So he sicks the Allosaurus on him and it eats him. And
Oh, this sounds amazing. Oh my God. Okay, send me the info on this book series immediately. I'm getting into this. That's the kind of crazy shit I would write.
And that'll do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for going on this journey with us. Let me know how you liked it in the comments section. And also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel as we bring you more thoughtful and intriguing content in the future.